Do you ever wonder why you're doing what you do in life? Do you wish that you could be really happy and passionate about what you do? Or maybe you already are and you want to expand in a different direction. Hi, I'm Barbara Ann, host of What the Why? I love what I do. A lot of that has to do with my story, my journey to this point in life. And guess what? Everybody has a story. So please join me for conversations with leaders from all walks of life about what they do, and more importantly, why they do it, how they found their core purpose, their passion, their mission in life. And if you're looking for your own, maybe you'll get some great suggestions on how you too can find your why. Welcome back to another episode of What the Why. If you haven't seen us before, especially if you are joining us on iHeartRadio and Apple and other platforms that recently added, our show features conversations with diverse leaders from all walks of life about why they do what they do and more importantly, how they figured out this is what they're meant to do. Maybe you're sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, or you feel stuck and you want to get unstuck, whether that's in your job, your career, your company, or maybe just your life. All of our guests have something in common with you. At some point, they felt similarly. They went through some type of pivot, or the fear of change finally got out of the way of the fear of staying the same, and they decided to do something about it. And today's guest is no exception. Please join me in welcoming Jessica Dolin to our show. She's joining us from Texas. Jessica is a mediator, speaker, and conflict resolution professional who helps people move from tension to clarity. So what is it all about? With a background shaped by early exposure to mediation and a later return through lived experience, she brings both structure and humanity to difficult conversations. Her work supports families, leaders, and teams in making clearer decisions, reducing conflict, and creating more sustainable agreements. Jessica is essentially and especially passionate about guiding people through high stakes moments with calm insights and practical tools for forward movement. And breaking news, we have some exciting things. We're also going to talk about how she's doing that even beyond the one-on-one interactions that she has with you. So without further ado, where it's actually cooler than it is here in New Jersey at the time that we are recording this episode, please join me in welcoming Jessica to our show. So round of applause. Yay! Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me today, Barbara. I'm really excited to talk with you about this. I think that we're going to have a great show.
I agree because there's so many people that are facing these types of difficult conversations. But before we dive into that, as we've asked every guest since our very first episode 5 years ago, I don't imagine that you thought you'd be doing what you're doing now when you were little. So, what did little Jessica want to do or be when she was growing up?
Little Jessica was bound and determined to be a ballerina. It was the pink shoes, the fit, like she knew that was her destiny. And then she got a little bit older and realized that she didn't really like the way the shoes felt. And she decided that she was going to be a singer. And,
Something
and
we
then
have in common.
I'm still a singer, just not professionally. My car gets the best shows.
So, how did you get from wanting to be a singer to doing other things that allows your car to get the best performances that you have?
So going from wanting to be a singer, I love music. It's a huge part of my life. Um, it's something like, I don't know, music is very therapeutic for me. And so I continued to sing, but I didn't focus on it as a career. There were other things as I continued growing up that captured my interest. And so I ended up going through cosmetology. I ended up having kids. I moved to different states. So I lived a lot of life before I ended up being the mom in the car line singing.
Granted, so having kids definitely requires mediation, to put it mildly. Um, you ended up taking a very specific path to help people, and I love this frame, help people move from tension to clarity and conflict resolution. How did you find that path?
So, and this actually came to me pretty young. I was in uh, elementary school at the time, and they did a pilot program for peer mediators. And so I was introduced to those skills very early. They wanted students to be able to manage small disputes within the student body, to relieve stress and teach those kids those conflict resolution skills that they could continue using in their life, but it also reduced the stress on the staff, right? With those lower level infractions. And so I did that for a year, and then the next school that I went to didn't have that program, but those skills stayed with me. Now, I think where the program kind of failed a little bit was explaining that as a career path, because as a fifth grader, my mind wasn't there yet. I just thought, oh, well, this is useful, so I took the class, but I ended up, and I always say I think that happened for a reason because I needed to go through some things and learn some things and do some living to be able to show up the way that I can today.
And so there's so many different ways that you can get involved in mediation. You chose to go your own practice. So there's so many entrepreneurs out there that struggle with, can I do it? Can I do my own business? How do I do this? How did you decide to choose, as I've been quoting the poem lately by Emerson, the road, in your case, you chose the road less traveled and you left behind the other that's typically traveled. How did you make that choice?
I have always had that entrepreneurial spirit. So I've always wanted something of my own. Uh,
Mm.
I'm very capable of working under, a manager and a team and being collaborative. I've done that for several years, but it just wasn't where my heart was. I knew that I could do more. I knew that I could have a bigger impact, and that just wasn't where my heart was. And I did go for my bachelor's. I actually specialized in entrepreneurship. So I was preparing to learn how to do all of these things because it is a lot. It is a lot to run your own business. You wear every single hat. You are the marketing department. You are the accounting department. You are everything. You're the face. You're the one doing the copy on the website. Like you are learning so many skills. Having a business has taught me more than those years in college did. I mean, I needed those as a good foundation, but having the actual business has taught me so much.
And, you know, there's so many things that we learn as also as a business owner who's helped others do businesses as well. There's so many things that the unexpected happens. And it's like,
Definitely.
oh, okay, didn't had a plan A, plan B, plan C. Um, but now we're on F for G. And that often happens in some of the conversations that you mediate. So let's talk about, your specialty. Um, because you work with families and leaders and teams in helping them make clearer decisions. So that can be a whole host of things. Um, to the extent that you're able to share, what are some of the types of clients that you work with?
For the most common is actually co-parents, parents that need a parenting plan. It's a huge thing, right? If they're facing divorce, or maybe they were never officially married, but they need some type of agreement in place so that they can continue to parent their children in a cohesive way. And it's a very difficult time because there's still all that emotion around it, right? There's grief, there's loss, there's anger, there's a lot of emotion tied up in this, and you're touching, it's kind of like picking at a wound a little bit when you are creating that plan, because everybody wants to come in and think, oh, well, we get along, so we don't need to go that deep. No, you need to go that deep. You're creating the plan for the worst case scenario. Hope for the best, plan for the worst. And so a lot of people just they have to have a shift to really understand what's needed. As far as other family disputes, um, estate disputes, so family members that just can't see eye to eye on how to manage things after someone's passed. Also, siblings, adult siblings that are trying to reconcile. There
Mm.
just is some specific speed bump that they just need help overcoming. And then as far as the executive or the workplace, that is also a separate focus of mine. My background is in HR. I have 2 degrees in human resource management. And so that is also something that I work on as well. So workplace would be like team level disputes, or it could be like an employee and a person in leadership. That actually happens quite a bit. And sometimes you need that neutral outside person to reestablish the trust, especially if it's something that has gone to HR a few times and they just can't seem to get on the same page. At that point, the trust is kind of dissipated and they really need someone else to come in and kind of rehash things out and sort out how we're going to move forward.
Mhm. And reestablishing trust with people is challenging, both because of the judgment of themselves, the judgment of others, the judgment of the circumstances, and everybody's got their armor on. And so there's probably people right now, I would be honest, myself included, that could use some suggestions in terms of how, and I coach this, right? So full transparency, I even coach this, but sometimes those things come up in your personal life and you're kind of like, gee, now what? Um, how do you help people reestablish sufficient trust to have the tough conversations that you are helping them navigate?
So it very much depends on the situation. I'll just use co-parents as my primary example.
Sure.
But a lot of times, what needs to happen first is an acknowledgement of the pain. They have to actually express why they are angry or hurt or sad. Because they come in staunch. They know exactly what they want. This is what I want. I practiced it in the mirror. I talked to Chat GPT, and this is what I want to do. And so, it's great to know what you want, but if there's anything you learn being a parent, it's that flexibility is the key. You have to be flexible because you're constantly changing and your kids are constantly changing. But the very first step is you have to actually feel the hurt and you have to acknowledge that it's there and you have to be patient with yourself because sometimes people get upset that they are still upset about it. Like there's no time limit on grief, and divorce and separation are something that you're grieving. You're grieving a
Yes.
relationship.
Hmm.
And so it's very, very important to do that. I also like to start the session. I'll ask on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling today? 10 being the most anxious, upset, and 1 being the most calm. You're laying on a beach having a pina colada. And so when they answer that question, it allows me to meet them where they are. Because if they come in and they're at an 8 or 9, the way I approach them is going to be very different from someone who's at a 3 or 4.
Yeah. And what you just said was so important in terms of the meeting them where they are and the fact that everybody's grieving this. They're doing it differently, regardless of who's on what side. There's a level of grief associated with it. Even if it's the best possible thing in the world, you're still grieving your story because that was part of your story. And so, meeting people where they are and helping them move through that is really important. Um, Interestingly, one of the things that comes up, even in coaching that I do, is as you put it, everybody comes in with what they want. And we've increasingly become a society that's all about compromise is bad, or changing your mind somehow is flip-flopping. And yet that's essential to finding common ground. To the extent you can share, I know you said this happens, and I'm sure it happens a lot in co-parenting. um, how do you navigate that? Well, I want this and I want that, and compromise is weakness, and you've got two people in the room that both have their armor on and aren't willing to give an inch on what they want. But your whole role is to help them find that common ground. How do you do that?
I think it starts with really great listening, first of all. You have to pay attention to what's going on because the whole reason they're there is because they want to be heard. They want to work it out. They want to collaborate, but they're talking to each other but not communicating. So they're talking at each other. It would be a better description. And so you're right. There is like this almost a stigma now of compromise and of changing your mind instead of being valued. Like that's flexibility, that's adapting to the situation. And so the first thing I just ask some questions so that I can get a real understanding of why they want what they want. Because the why, just like your show, actually, the
Hmm.
why is the meat and potatoes of the situation. And usually at the end of the day, I can bring both parents together because they both want what's best for the children, right? That's the common goal. And you really have to remind them of that as we're going through the process because negotiations do get heated, just like any negotiation, whether it's business or family. They get heated because people want what they want and they've been holding that position usually for a while. And so it does take some time to break that down, but asking the right questions to pull that information out of them so that they can understand each other, because that's really the biggest thing. One of the things, I actually just finished a co-parenting specialist training, and one of the things she got, or I got from her was, her name's Christina McGee. She's fantastic. She's been a family mediator for like 20 years, I think.
That
Um,
name is actually familiar.
yeah,
Believe it or
she's
not, it is.
fantastic. And so I
Wow.
went through her training, and one of the metaphors I picked up from her is when you fight fire with fire, the kids get burned.
Mm.
And I was like, that is amazing because it's so simple. Anyone's going to understand the message. So, um, a lot of times I'll have them bring their favorite photo of their child. So that way, when things start getting a little haywire, I'll say, hey, can you pull your pictures out for me? Let's let's talk about what's going to be best for this child because that's the common thread that they have. They both want what's best. It's just this one thinks it's one way and the other one thinks it's another way. And so we just have to find somewhere in the middle. So I do have to kind of break and shift that mindset. And it's hard because our society, the standard that everyone thinks is normal is just to go straight to litigation, which is very adversarial. So it's creating an enemy. So even if y'all did get along, once you go to court, you will no longer be getting along
Hmm.
because it's a very win or lose. And mediation isn't like that. Mediation is, hey, we have a problem. If I give a little bit from my side and you give a little bit from your side, then we can actually make something that will work for our family. Because that's the other thing with court, it's very cookie cutter. That may or may not be best for your family. But the judge can only go off of what they have and the standards that they have. Versus in mediation, you can be a little more creative. You know your family better than anyone else. So breaking that thought of compromise being wrong or win or lose, because mediation is not win or lose. That's another part of it because you just kind of have to break through those mindsets and let them know there's other options, and that's why we're here today.
Which is awesome. So many good things. And you know, all of those benefits are really important. And on top of that, the costs of litigation.
Oh, yes,
So many people that I know who've been down that road have said, the only one who really benefited here was our attorneys. And
absolutely.
that is not
meant in any way to disparage my friends who are functioning in the divorce world, but if there is a better way, then that really is the healthiest way to go. So I also know therapists who have done a lot of work with people who've gone the attorney route and didn't get what they wanted or what they hoped for. And if you can negotiate it, it's so much better. It's so much more empowering than feeling like somebody who doesn't really know your situation took control over it. Um, you know, and it's interesting because there are people I know who probably could have gone this route as opposed to hiring an attorney, paying tons and tons of money out of fear of getting stuck with paying alimony and things like that, of all different genders. What are some of the signs that a situation, whether it's in a company or in a couple situation, however you choose to answer it, what are the signs from a situation that a situation would benefit from mediation?
If we're for co-parents, I would say that both parents are frustrated but looking for a better way. So they're at that point where they're upset, but they're like, we need to find another way to fix this. Um, Another would be where they need structure. They're not trying to punish anyone, right? We just need something to make this work. Our schedules are very different. We need some structure. Or it could be as simple as he's texting me or she's texting me at night, and I don't want any texts that aren't about the kids. It could be any of those things. They need some structure, some rules of engagement.
Hmm.
Um, as long as they can still listen and be willing to listen to the other person, consider alternate options, and they can really focus on what the child needs, then I would say that they are in a great position. Most of the time, they see like the same argument repeating. And so that's when you know that this specific issue is where you want to mediate.
And it's interesting because whether it is in the co-parenting situation or the boardroom in a nonprofit, been there. One of the biggest fights ever had in a nonprofit. We were fighting over implementing sexual harassment policies back in the 90s.
Oh, I
In
can imagine how that went.
we'll just say a a Latino organization, and boy, did it get heated. It got really heated because some
And it
people felt
can.
strongly about it, some people didn't. Of course, then it became an issue when a situation did arise. It was like, oh, it's a good thing we have those policies in place. But that was very tough conversations that could absolutely have used a mediator. And had that been a recognized thing at the time, as the personnel chair, I probably would have recommended it. So, um, who typically does reach out to you for your services?
Typically for co-parents, it's going to be obviously the parent. Um, Sometimes there'll be an attorney that'll refer them. So it just kind of depends where they are in the process. But sometimes they reach out directly, sometimes it's through an attorney. When it's workplace, if I'm doing an executive decision issue, then it's usually some of their admin, like an executive assistant, would reach out because it's more of a high level issue. If it's something with the team level or with middle management, then that's probably going to be the HR team that's going to reach out and say, hey, probably if it's a larger company, employer relations representative would reach out and say, hey, this has come to HR a few times, and we really need someone who's an outside neutral person to come in and help us go ahead and settle this. That does mean, though, that the people have to be willing to participate, same as the co-parent. Um, and then they need to, a lot of times with workplace, it's like you said, there was nothing in place. So there's no clear agreement about roles or expectations. And so that really is the crux of it. You have to have those in place. And the company has to be willing to own anything that comes out of that. So as
Mm.
long as the company is willing to take ownership for their part and the employee is willing to take ownership for their part and they both want to move forward and actually continue working together, then that would be a good candidate for mediation.
Awesome. Wow. And again, there's so many interesting things in what you said about even just the process. And one of the things that I definitely want to highlight that you've kind of said all along is there's so much of what's happening here is listening to understand the other person, not so much listening to say what you want. It's also listening to understand what everybody else wants.
Exactly. Yeah. Because in our, like, think about when you are walking in the grocery store and you say, "Hey, how are you?" Do you wait for the response? We kind of are trained to not really listen. We just do things out of habit or it's customary, so we do it. And so finding a mediator that is going to listen to you is key because not all mediators are the same. So I always recommend that anyone who's considering mediation to interview them for a fit check. You need to make sure that their process is going to fit you, just like you would an attorney.
Yes. Yes. And as someone who once fired an attorney and hired somebody else, I can absolutely validate that because the person just wasn't hearing and was not listening to what I was saying was the real issue. And thank goodness the person that I hired to replace them in that particular case was essential a couple decades ago, but it made all the difference. I'm certain in the experience.
Oh, yeah.
And so what area, like, how do you operate? Uh, are you specific to Texas? Do you cover on a larger basis? What's your business footprint?
So I am able to mediate virtually anywhere in the US. My certification is valid globally, but I have limited it to the US. There's plenty of people in
Okay.
the US for me. So um, it's all virtual, which I really like because you're not forcing people to come into a room with people they're already upset with.
Mm,
So it can help maintain the temperature of the room.
okay.
Um, it also allows them to be comfortable in their own space because they're already going to have a very hard conversation. And so I always tell them to bring snacks. If you have a comfort item that you like to keep with you, bring that with you. Um, Bring a book, or if you're in your living room, I tell them to go somewhere private, but if there's no one home, sometimes they'll be in. So I tell them, you can watch a show when I let you know that I'm going to go talk to the other party for a little while. You may be waiting. So I try to make sure that they're prepared, that everyone knows how to use Zoom because not everyone is using it every day. So I do try to prep them before the actual session so that they're not anxious about how to get into the meeting and all these other little minutia that you have to worry about to get there. I try to make sure that there's not that many things that they can worry about other than the actual problem.
Mhm. And to the extent I mentioned in the intro that you have some interesting breaking news, to the extent that you want to share that news, um, you aren't obviously you can't be available 100% of the time. And so you've been working on a solution for that. So to the extent you're comfortable, feel
All
free to break
right.
that news here.
I am very excited to share what I've been working on. So you're right. I can't be everywhere. And to be honest, mediation is more cost effective than litigation, but it's still costly. It is like it's you may spend up to 100 grand on litigation for a divorce or separation, or even in the workplace, those get even higher.
Yeah.
Um, but and mediation is a more affordable, collaborative way to approach the situation, but there are still people where that's out of reach. That's just too much. I can't do it. And so I wanted something that would address that because I really, really believe that those skills are being lost. How to deal with conflict is it's getting lost. And it's such an invaluable set of skills. It allows you to be able to work with anyone. You have a better understanding of yourself and why people are doing what they do. Like it touches so many aspects of your life that you don't even realize until you learn. But what I did is I created an app and it is for co-parents and I'm so excited. It's called Parent Accord. Currently, it's available in the web version. So if you go to parentaccord.com, you can actually read all about it, have an FAQ that explains how everything works. And there's a quiz there. So you can see if it's the right product for you because there are other products out there for co-parents. And it may not be a right fit for you. Like I said, I always tell everyone to check for fit. And so inside of this platform, it allows co-parents to message. It has categories for those messages to keep it centered on the kids. No more of those late night you up texts. We want to avoid those. It also has a tone detector, so it'll suggest a better way to say it if it reads as hostile. It will suggest that, and you could just click that option because if you're in the heat of the moment, you may not be able to put the right words together. At least it's there for you, and you can just tap on it because we're all human. There are days you're going to be mad. We got to be realistic. It also has built into the platform actual certified mediators. They are vetted. And so I am really, really happy. All of those mediators are able to service clients virtually. And I actually have a one, she's also a CDFA, a certified divorce financial analyst. So I have big plans. This is just the beginning. This is version one. But it does allow tracking for expenses. It also allows you to manually enter a parenting plan. So if you already have one, you can enter in those rules and it'll automatically generate it on the calendar for you. So there's no misunderstanding when pickups are, where they're going to be. It's it's very nice to organize everything, and it does create immutable records. So if you do eventually have to go through litigation, you have that documentation that you need. But the goal here is really to produce a conflict reduction engine. I
Mhm.
don't, I don't, to me, co-parents is like the very start of where our society is going, right? Those children are going to grow up into adults, and those adults are going to be the ones that end up running things. So if we could stop those issues at the root, imagine how much advancement our society could have. Because I was a child of divorce, so I know exactly how much that impacts you. I have this guiding principle that I use, and I at the end of the day, I just want parents to know that they don't have to get everything perfect to give their children something better. They need support, structure, and a willingness to recenter the child when things get hard. That's the heart of my work, and that is why I created Parent. I feel like parents are so underserved when it comes to resources on what to do because people only know, okay, let's go to court. But that is so expensive. It's so, like we said earlier, adversarial. Like, if you have any choice to preserve the relationship, I would take it.
Mhm.
And so the goal with Parent Accord is to make that more accessible because you may not need a full day of mediation. If it's just one small issue that you just need someone to step in and referee, tag in one of the mediators right there on the platform. It's so much easier and so much more accessible. There are so many parents out there that don't even know that mediation is an option. And so that's the goal. It is version one. There's a lot of stuff I'm going to add to it as it continues to grow. Um, the web app is up, and then hopefully by the end of the month, it'll also be available in the Play Store.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Now, for anybody who wants to find you, and as your journey continues to evolve, you're going to have to come back and tell everybody about, other things later down the line as you continue to grow and evolve and offer more and broader and extensive services. But what all just so you're aware, audience, Jessica's contact information is going to be available in the links wherever whatever platform you're watching this on or listening to it on. But for those who are listening right now, what's the easiest way for people to find you?
The easiest way would be my website for my mediation and notary services. That's thepeoplesmediator.com. And then if you're interested in the app, that is at parentaccord.com, Accord, ACCORD.
Mhm.
Um, so either of those, and if you're looking for actual co-parenting tips, you'll find me on TikTok. I'm the most active on TikTok, and that's at PS Mediation Notary is my handle there. If you're looking more for the workplace content, that's going to be on my LinkedIn.
Okay. All right. So everybody, you heard and or are well, heard or and are listening or viewing the transcript for this. And so Jessica, thank you so much for really informational conversation that could be so pivotal and help people navigate these kinds of conflicts and challenges in their lives because they do come up. And as we go further into 2026 and the last couple of years, we're seeing upticks in the need for people who do what you do. And so thank you for coming on, sharing your story. And if you're looking for somebody who can assist you here in the United States, she was very clear, United States specifically, but if you are looking, please feel free to reach out to Jessica and see how she can help you and whoever you're working with to try and navigate these types of challenges a better way forward. And for all of you, wherever you're listening in the world, thank you so much for watching and or listening and supporting our show. You have so much content that you can access these days. And so we are really, really grateful and humbled that you chose us. And we ask that if this is helping you in any way, shape, or form, please tell someone else, share this with somebody else who can benefit from hearing from all of these amazing experts and humans that we interview and have the privilege of hosting and featuring their expertise. And also for you, whether you're looking to make changes, big or small, please join us again for more illuminating and fascinating conversations and informational conversations that could have real financial benefits to you with guests such as Jessica, who navigated the world in her own unique way to find her purpose and to live it.